everybody. We are so excited that you are joining us for our second installment of Summer Live on YouTube with us, Calvary Teens. We're so excited that you are joining us tonight. We have a great evening in store for you. We've got some new content. We're going back and we're playing a game that we played last week. So there's prizes that we're going to give away. We're going to have a great night together online. And so we're going to start off tonight with a game that all of you can play. And that game is called Synonym Song Battle. Synonym Song Battle. Can't say that 10 times fast. Synonym Song Battle. And how this game is going to work is that we're going to put a phrase on the screen, and that phrase is going to be the synonym of an actual song lyric. And the first person to type the correct answer to the name of that song lyric will win that round, and we will mail you a gift card. Hopefully, those of you who won last week should have gotten your prizes in the mail today if U.S. Postal Service was on top of their game. So, all right, Joel, if you can pull that up, and I'm going to come back here and get this game rolling. So make sure you've got chat open. Make sure you've got chat open on your screen so that you can type in. We're going to do a practice round just to make sure that everybody's on the same page of what we are doing. So this is called Synonym Song Battle. Synonym Song Battle. And so the instructions are, again, a song title will be given as all synonyms, words that mean the same thing, obviously. You must guess the original song title, and the first person to guess correctly wins the prize for that round. All right. Are you guys ready in chat? If you're not, I'm not looking at it, so we're going to go. We'll give you a practice round just to be safe and get you guys all on the same page. So if you're ready, in chat, the first clue is joyous birthday. Joyous birthday. What is the synonym? Joyous birth date. Sorry. Joyous birth date. What is the synonym for that song lyric? Check in the chat, Joel. We got oh, nobody said anything yet. Okay, we're joyous birth date. Joyous birth date. In the chat, first person to type the correct answer will win. Happy birthday. All right, that is the correct answer. Ian, unfortunately, there is no prize associated with that because it is practice, but you will still have a chance to win another round, as we're going to have six winners tonight. All right, knocking the rust off. There's the answer. Happy birthday. All right, here we go. Hopefully you guys can do this. If your siblings are around or if your parents can help you, that's all fair game. All right, here we go with question number 2. Question number 2. This is a pop culture song. My cardiac organ will proceed. Very strange. My cardiac organ will proceed. This is a pop culture reference. I don't know if my partner in the booth here, Joel, do you know it? Okay, Joel knows it. All right. So my cardiac organ will proceed. In the chat, this is pop culture. See how you can do with this one. Anything? We got nothing yet. Oh, man. All right. We got to work on our pulp. Maggie got it. Maggie Chapman. All right, let's go. Maggie Chapman with the pop culture reference. The answer is My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion. All right. Hopefully you guys are catching on. Some of these will be pop culture references. There's, I think there's 3 or 4 worship songs at the end. So if you're into worship music, because, hey, that's great stuff to listen to, then hang on. We'll get to your favorite songs as well. All right. So question number 2. Question number 2, and I don't even know what this first word means, Joel, is croonin' in the precipitation. Croonin'. Am I saying that correctly? You don't know. I don't even know what that means. Croonin'. Croonin'. I don't even know. Croonin' in the precipitation. Somebody might have to Google that, but pop culture reference, very famous. Genesis, Olale, got that one. That is Singing in the Rain. Very classic, Joel. Very classic song. Genesis, I'm glad that you know your classic pop culture references. Your parents are very, very proud. All right, here we go. Question number 3. I think this is our last pop culture reference before we get to some worship song. And I'll just give you guys a hint. This is a country song. So I don't know if you guys are country song fans, but this is a country song. Here we go. It is Carry Me to My House, Rural Streets. Carry Me to My House, Rural. I have trouble with my R's and my L's. I have a speech impediment, Joel. I don't know if you knew that. So that word is tough for me. So carry me to my rural house. All right. What is that song referencing? Ian Kahinde with the pop culture country reference coming through. Big man. Take Me Home, Country Roads by John Denver. I can just start singing it now, Joel, but you don't want me to. Nope. All right. We're going to move to a very, very currently popular worship song. All right. Here we go. Next one. Path Creator. Path Creator. Now, I don't. Yeah. I think you guys will get this one, but I don't agree with the synonyms that were used by the producer of said game. Dennis Hong with the correct answer. Waymaker by Leland, one of my favorite songs. If it's not on your song list that you listen to every day, you should have it. It's a song and a half. That's all I have to say about that. All right, moving on to the next one. This one, I think that hopefully all of you should be able to get to. This is a little bit of an oldie, but a little bit of a classic one. Okay, Joel? All right, here we go. The question is, I am only capable of using my imagination. I don't know. This one's kind of weird to me too. I am only capable of using my imagination. What song lyric is that? By the way, this band is still producing new content, Joel, and it's pretty good too. So, hey, it is not Newsboys. No, they've gone through like 6 lead singers. It's insane. Do we have an answer on this one? All right, so Ian already won. So is somebody? The next one is Dennis. Do we have anybody after that? If somebody just wants to type in the chat. Who is it? Haven Sowers. Awesome job, Haven. There you go. Dennis and Ian, you guys already won, correct? They already won. So we are going to make sure that we let somebody else in on the fun. Great job, Haven. All right, we've got one more lyric for the night, and I accidentally already clicked on it. You cannot halt myself. You cannot halt myself. I don't know how many of you have listened. I believe this is a Christian artist. I don't know if he's technically hip-hop or rap. I don't know, but this is a Christian artist. Don't listen to him a lot, but I have heard this song. It's not too shabby. You cannot halt myself. We'll see if anybody gets this. I think this is the hardest one on the board, Joel. Do you know this? Ooh, Dennis, so close. So close, Dennis. This one, I think this one's going to be tough. This one's going to be tough. I don't know. I don't know if anybody's going to get this. Unless you've heard the song, I don't think you're going to get it. We'll give people about 6 more seconds here, and then we'll just go with our 5 winners, because this was a hard one. I didn't know this one off the top of my head. All right, no winners in the chat. Ooh, 1 more, 2 more. Yes, Kyle Venturini. Yes, Kyle Venturini. Again, Kyle won last week, so Kyle's been brushing up on his trivia references. You Cannot Stop Me by Andy Mineo. Don't have a lot of his songs on my playlist, but probably have heard of him as a Christian artist. Guys, thanks for playing. We will make sure that we get all those names written down, and we will get your prizes out to you sometime next week after the 4th of July. They will get to you there. So while we make sure we got all of our names correct, we have a brand new segment for you tonight called Challenge Me. challenge me. And each week we're going to have a challenge that you give to me. So in the chat, you can send us a challenge, and we will pick one for me to do. So put it in the chat. It could be a push-up challenge. It could be a food challenge, whatever. We'll pick one, general one. We might determine the specifics of how it looks so I don't actually, die. But this week's challenge, so if you've got a challenge for me, stick it in the chat. But this week's challenge I chose for myself. I don't know why I did, but this week's challenge is me riding my bike to work from my house to church. It's just right on about 6 miles, and I took the GoPro along for the ride. So guys, go ahead and check out this video of my morning.
Hey everybody, so it's about 6:30 a.m. on Wednesday morning, and for this week's Challenge Me challenge, I am going to ride my bike to work. We'll see how it goes. I have a meeting at 10, so hopefully I'll make it. Let's do this. Alright guys, that was our first big hill. We get another one coming up here in a second. Hopefully, keep going. Just keep breathing. Alright guys, that hill was a little less fun than the last one, but we made it, and I think that's our last hill. Hopefully we're downhill most of the way. Oh, I forgot to tell you, this ride's about 6 miles from my house to church, and I think we're about a mile and a half in, so keep going. Well, we're making it. I lied about those hills. Moyer and Hatfield has like 2 really long, gradual hills, which actually are worse than the short little steep ones. Also, apparently this is a no water challenge, because I also forgot my water bottle at church yesterday, so I think I'm gonna drink about 5 of them when I get there. All right, let's keep going. Alright, hopefully you guys can see that. I'm at Allentown Road, so that means I just have 1 light left, which is a pretty long stretch. I think it's about a mile, but it's super flat, so we should be able to do it. So, alright, let's finish this. All right, guys, well, we made it. It actually wasn't too bad. 6 miles. I I think I told Julie that probably would take me an hour maybe, and it took me just about only like 25-30 minutes. So not too bad. I haven't ridden a bike in a while. Probably the longest bike ride I've done since high school. So not too bad. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Let's get back to the show.
Alrighty, everybody. Thanks for sticking with that one. I punished myself this morning, and surprisingly, I'm not feeling too bad right now. I might be feeling it a little bit tomorrow morning when I wake up, but hey, all for you guys, right? So thanks for playing our first game. Just a reminder of the winners. We have Maggie Chapman, Genesis Olale, Ian Kahinde, Dennis Hong, Haven Sowers, and Kyle Venturini. Will be sending your prizes to you sometime early next week in the mail. So congratulations to all of you. For our next segment, we've got another game, but we've got some friends joining us from their home via video tonight. And last week, if you joined us, we had Joelle Chapman and Maggie Chapman up here in a game of Family Feud, and Maggie took that one home. Joelle shaking his head in the room with me tonight. He's still bitter about that one. But we've got another sibling rivalry challenge tonight. We've got Emily and Abby Tuttle, who are going to go head-to-head in an M&M Chopsticks challenge. Let's see who wins this one. Go ahead and take a look at this video.
Hi, I'm Abby.
Hi, I'm Emily.
And this is the M&M Challenge. In this game, we're trying to see who can get the most M&Ms from their pile into this cup here, and we have 30 seconds. On your mark, get set, go. Ooh. Come on.
Ah!
Huh. It is harder than it looks.
Much harder.
Yes.
Ah!
Timer.
How many do you have?
I have 4, and I have 5, so it looks like I am the winner.
Shoot. Sorry, I had to hit stop streaming. Sorry. Are we back? All right. We are back. I think, sorry about that, guys. My camera battery died, and then I had to restart my system. So hopefully we are back on camera in just a few seconds. Thanks for bearing with me on this. Just doing one more setting change. We are going to jump into our message here in just a minute, and actually it's telling me that I don't have a signal, which is strange because it should be going. So all that to say, I'm going to get that figured out. So I've got the message all set up for you guys. Make sure you have your booklets out in front of you. We're going to get the message going while we hopefully fix this technical difficulty. So stay tuned to this message that we have for you in our next in our next lesson, in our study of No Peace. Hey everybody, and thank you for joining us for a second conversation in our study, No Peace. If you missed last week's conversation, you can head over to our YouTube channel, and there's a playlist that has all of the conversations from the study, No Peace, and they'll be there so that you can go back and watch them, or you can catch up on any study that you've missed. We also hope that you were able to take advantage of the devotionals that were in your booklet that followed up on last time's conversation. because today we're going to be building on last time's conversation and continue to talk about this understanding of how we respond to situations in life that cause us to fear. So if you have your booklet, make sure you have it out in front of you and grab a pen so that you'll be able to fill in the blanks that will be highlighted in yellow on the screen. Before we get going into this week's conversation, I want to share with you one of the things that Julie and I love to do together. We love to watch movies together. It's kind of become a tradition since we've been dating and engaged, and now we're married, and we've pretty much, kept up with all of the movies that have come out. Like the entire Marvel series has been a tradition for us to go every spring, and whenever time a movie has come out, we've gone to the movies together and watched it as a date night. It's just something that's been a tradition for us. And when we got married, I started to introduce Julie to other movie series as well that she hadn't seen before. And one of those series that she had never seen before was Star Wars. Now, I'm sure you're probably wondering, how could you marry someone who has never seen Star Wars before? Well, all I can say to that is it was clearly a work of the Lord. But so I got Julie into watching Star Wars. Now, Star Wars is a very interesting series because there are 9 movies in the Star Wars series, and they were kind of written in out of order. So episodes 4, 5, and 6 came out in the late 70s and early 80s. And then episodes 1, 2, and 3 came out in the early 2000s. And then, of course, over the past about 5 years, episodes 7, 8, and 9 have come out. And there's this, don't ask me why they did that, but there's this debate among Star Wars fans of what order you should watch the movies in. Do you watch them in the order that they were written? So that means you start with episode 4. Or do you watch them starting from episode 1 and going straight through to episode 9? So I decided when Julie was going to watch them with me is that we were going to start in episode 1. And we watched episodes 1 through 3, and Julie's into it and she's enjoying it. And then we watch episode 4. And if you know anything about episodes 4, 5, and 6, because they were written in the and filmed in the 70s and the 80s, they're a little dated and they're just a little harder to watch because there's not all the cool animations and graphics and things that we have in our modern movies today. So after we finish episode 4, Julie turns to me and says, "I'm so glad we didn't start with that movie because I would never have watched another Star Wars movie again." Why? Because she wasn't ready for it. She had never experienced Star Wars before, so she didn't understand the context and the nostalgia that went with episode 4 because she had never seen another Star Wars movie. So going through episodes 1 through 3 helped set that up for her. She simply wasn't ready for episodes 4, 5, and 6 yet. And I think that same idea translates over to our lives in general, because many times we don't understand something until we experience it. We don't understand something until we experience it. Maybe your parents have given you advice about something and you kind of just shrug it off because it wasn't practical right then and there. But one day you face that situation and you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense now that what my mom or my dad was telling me about. Or maybe you're sitting in church listening to a message preached and you're like, yeah, I trust God. I'm good. I'm not really facing any trials or struggles right now. My life seems okay. But then a trial or something bad comes along that tests our faith and we're like, whoa, is God there? Does he even care for me? And which we've seen and will see some great men like David and Elijah who have asked these same questions during very difficult times in their lives. Tonight we're going to talk about a story from Paul's life found in Acts chapter 27. And it's not a story that we read a lot about, but it's one that I've greatly enjoyed studying. And it's become one of my favorite passages because Paul is going to face a very dangerous and difficult situation, but he's going to have a different perspective than the people around him because of what God has promised him. And we're going to dive into those details. This passage is a bit long, so just bear with me as we walk through Acts 27 together. Look how it starts in verse 18. It says, "We took such a violent battering from the storm that the next day they began to throw the cargo overboard. On the third day, they threw the ship's tackle overboard with their own hands." Now, Paul is clearly on a ship
He is bound for Rome, which we're going to see in a moment. Then so this is a very desperate situation. Let's see what happens next. When neither the sun nor the stars appeared for many days and the storm continued raging, we finally gave up all hope of being saved. Now that's a pretty bold statement because what they're saying is all hope is lost. Now, let me give you some context. What's happening here? Paul is on his way to Rome, and Paul has always expressed his desire to the people of Rome, to God, that he wanted to go and preach the gospel there. So he prayed and prayed and prayed that God would allow him to go to Rome. And now Paul is finally on his way, but it's not in the way that he has expected. First, he's a prisoner going in chains. And secondly, as we just read, there's this great storm that's tearing the ship apart to the point where everyone on the ship says all hope is lost. Now, I don't know if you've ever expressed this sort of statement in your own life because this is pretty extreme, but maybe at some point over the past 3 months or so that you have had this thought come into your mind. All hope of going back to normal life is lost. I'm never going to see my friends again. I'm never going to get to go back to school, which you probably thought you would never, ever say. But there's a great deal of fear and anxiety about the future. And Paul has this same feeling as well. So this is the reality that we just read of everyone on the ship. Now let's see how they respond, starting in verse 21. And over these next 11 verses as we read them, I want you to look for 2 commands that Paul gives that are very, very illogical commands that don't seem to make any sense at the time. Look at verse 21. It says, after they had gone a long time without food, Paul stood up before them and he said, men, you should have taken my advice not to sail from Crete. Then you would have spared yourselves from this damage and loss. But now I urge you to keep up your courage because not one of you will be lost, only the ship will be destroyed. So, great encouraging news from Paul. None of you will die, but the ship you're on is going to be destroyed. That doesn't seem like very hope-filled news from Paul. They're on a ship in the middle of a large body of water. How are we going to survive if the ship sinks? Paul continues. He says, last night, an angel of God came to me, to whom I belong and I serve, and stood beside me, and said, do not be afraid, Paul. You must stand trial before Caesar, and God has graciously given you the lives of all who sail with you. So Paul gives a pretty good explanation and reason why he can have confidence. But he keeps going. He says, so keep up your courage, men, for I have faith in God that it will happen just as he told me. Nevertheless, we must run aground on some island. Now again, ship being destroyed that you're on in the middle of the ocean. Really, really bad. You know what's also really bad? If that ship runs aground. Because basically if a ship runs aground, it's done. It's destroyed. It's a sailor's worst nightmare. So Paul, he addresses this situation. He doesn't address the issue of the storm. He addresses these sailors' attitude and their approach towards it. Because the first command that he gives them is be courageous. Now, you can be courageous despite the circumstances that you are surrounded by. So, Paul says, be courageous. The ship's going to fall apart. It's going to sink. It's going to be destroyed. But we're going to be fine because God's got us. And that sounds crazy to all these men on the ship because they don't believe in God. But they're probably too tired and too wet to think about all the details at that very moment. So Paul tries to encourage them and he says, be courageous. And then the story goes on in verse 27. He says, on the 14th night, so 2 weeks, we were still being driven across the Adriatic Sea when about midnight the sailors sensed that they were approaching land. So these sailors have an idea that land is near. And again, land being near to a ship is not good. They took soundings and found that the water was 120 feet deep. A short time later, they took soundings again and found that it was 90 feet deep. Long story short, they're getting closer to land. They're getting closer to running the ship aground. That reality of crashing and the ship being destroyed is setting in. Paul's prediction is coming true that the ship is about to be crashed into rocks and be destroyed. And that reality is setting in for the sailors. They heard Paul say it, but it didn't register with them, but now it's clicking, and they start to freak out. Look how they respond in verse 29. It says, fearing that we would be dashed against the rocks, the sailors dropped 4 anchors from the stern and prayed for daylight. Basically, they said, we've done all that we can. We give up hope. Let's throw the anchors overboard and hope the ship survives. This is their last-ditch effort. Keep going. In an attempt to escape from the ship, the sailors let down the lifeboat in the sea, pretending that they were going to lower some of the anchors from the bow. So these sailors, again, in a last-ditch attempt to escape from the ship, they try and get off the ship. Because if a ship that you're on is going to crash, the most logical thing to do is get off of it, right? But look at what Paul tells the sailors in verse 31. It says, then Paul said to the centurion and the soldiers, unless these men stay with the ship, you cannot be saved. So the soldiers cut the ropes that held the lifeboat and let it drift away. They cut the lifeboat away. Their one hope of survival is now gone. Now, maybe you're thinking that it was easy to start something. It's easy when that storm first hits. You're working, you're fighting, it's easy. But now, after 2 weeks of fighting, it seems that all hope is lost and motivation to continue on is gone. Maybe you found that if you have started a diet plan or working out or trying to eat healthy, it's easy to start at first, but then as you go on, it's more difficult to maintain that motivation. For us, maybe quarantine started out great. Netflix was amazing. We could be on technology as much as we wanted. Actually, it was mandatory. Zoom calls were kind of novel and cool. But now, a few months later, Zoom calls are dumb and boring, and Netflix just is irrelevant. And so Paul gives these sailors another command, and he asks these sailors to stay. Sorry, the slide's not up there, but he asks these sailors to stay. He said, if you stay with the ship, God will use the storm to bring you where he has planned for you to go. Remember how Paul prayed and prayed and prayed to finally be able to go to Rome, and he's finally going there with a ship in probably the worst situation that a ship could ever be in, facing certain death. How could Paul confidently stand before these sailors and say, hey guys, we're going to survive, but the ship is going to be destroyed? Paul knew something that in the storm that the other people around him didn't know. Paul had a different perspective because he knew that God had promised that he would get to Rome. It's interesting, though, how God works in our lives to get us to places where we've asked God to take us. Because there's probably some things in your life that you're going through that you don't understand or you have gone through in the past, and you don't understand why God has allowed that to happen for you. But sometimes I believe that God uses trials in our lives to take us to the places where we've asked him to take us. But the interesting thing is this: we want to get somewhere. We want God to take us somewhere. But we don't always get to choose our transportation. We want God to take us somewhere, but we want to do it the easy way. We want to do it the way that's the safest way. But oftentimes, the best way, all the time, the best way is God's way. And we don't always get to choose how God takes us there, but we know that God is faithful. He will get us to our destination, but the way he transports us there is not always easy. And Paul could trust that God would get them all safely to Rome because he trusted in God's promises. Paul chose faith over fear. His response could be different from the world around us because he knew the one who was with us and the one who keeps his promises takes us to where he wants us to go, even if the journey is difficult. And I believe that is the way that God not only worked in Paul's life, but in the way that he works in every single one of our lives. So if you're facing a trial, don't run from it. Allow God to work in your life, to use that trial, that time, that situation to take you where he would have you to go, because he is faithful and he is a God who keeps his promises. This week we have more devotional content for you as you work through your booklet to think more about the passage that we just talked about today for just a few short minutes this week so that we can dive into it and reflect on it more specifically. Let's pray. Dear God, I thank you for our conversation tonight. I thank you for this example from the life of Paul. God, I pray that you would help each and every one of us. Though we're not on a ship facing destruction, but we're facing difficult trials. We're facing things that we would have never asked to go through. But God, we know that you're faithful and that your plan is always best. God, I pray that you would help us to lean into you, to trust in you, even when it doesn't seem like things are going to work out the way that we want them to. God, give us grace and strength and peace as we work through these things in our lives. In Jesus' name, amen.
Alrighty, everybody. Do we get what happened, Joel? Camera's not working. Again? It's not working for us? There we go. All right, guys. There we go. Awesome. Sorry about the camera troubles tonight. I confused Joel there for a second, had it on a different setting. Thank you for bearing with us. Going back to Abby and Emily's M&M battle, congratulations, Abby. We will connect with you on your prize for this week for winning the M&M challenge. Sorry also, guys, about the video. We had a streaming problem where my voice was not with what you were seeing on the screen, so hopefully we'll be able to fix that for next week. But I hope and trust that you were able to follow along with the lesson as well as follow along in your booklet for No Peace. Just again, a reminder, I know I mentioned it in the video, but you've got some days of devotional content that will follow up this lesson, going back and examining some of those details from the story from the book of Acts that we talked about in the life of Paul. So what we are going to do to end our night, I think I mentioned last week that we are going to end each week in a little bit of a different and special way. Last week we ended with worship, but we're actually going to end this week with a short time of prayer. And so if you guys, first of all, if you guys have any prayer requests that you would like me tonight to pray for, you can put unspoken in the chat. That's all right. Or if you want to mention it specifically, put it in the chat and we will pray for that specifically live on stream tonight. But while you're doing that, while you're typing in the chat, I want to pray a few general things for you. I want to pray that all of you are staying safe and healthy during this time where we're still working through the situation that we are in. That's number one. Secondly, I want to pray that God allows you and your family to spend quality time together this summer. I know the past few months have been strange and difficult and possibly stressful for your family. So I want to pray for your families. And then lastly, I want to pray that your summer isn't a time that you stop growing in your relationship with Jesus, but it's another stepping stone. It's another opportunity for you to grow closer to Christ. And that's why we're doing what we're doing with this study and hanging out together over the summer, is helping you to grow in your relationship with Jesus and become a more devoted follower of him. So I'm just going to jump over to the chat really quick and see if we've got any prayer requests coming in the chat. And if I don't see any in the next couple seconds, I'll just go ahead and pray for those three general things, and we'll get going. I don't see any specific ones in the chat, but I just wanted to use this time to let you know that we are praying for you, and that if you have any needs or any concerns or any help with anything, reach out to us via my email or our social media, and we'll be able to connect and continue to stay in touch with you through those means. Let me pray for you, and then I will let you go back to your evenings with whatever you guys are doing next. Let's pray. Dear God, I thank you for this evening. I thank you that, God, you are a perfect God. Even though the circumstances around us may be difficult at times, especially as we heard from Paul's life and even the circumstances that we are facing, God, I thank you that you are trustworthy and that you are enough. I pray for each and every one of the teens in our ministry who are listening tonight and who are not able to join us. I pray that they and their families will all be safe and healthy, and that you continue to guide and protect them during this difficult time. God, I also want to pray that you allow our teens and their families to continue to grow together in their relationships with each other, to continue to be able to have time to spend together, and just grow together and grow in their relationship with you. Lastly, I pray specifically for our teens that they would continue to grow in their relationship with Christ, that they would continue to pursue you and follow after you, no matter the difficulties, the stresses, the worries, the fears that come up, but they would continue to trust you and express faith over fear and trust in your promises. Pray that over all of us tonight in Jesus' name. Amen. Guys, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Again, don't forget your 3 days of devotional content following up with our conversations. Also, be sure, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, hit the subscribe button and hit the little bell so that you will be able to know when anytime we upload a video or go live. Thank you for joining us tonight. We hope you all have a great week. Have a great 4th of July weekend, and we will see you next time. Take care.